Seriously, Todd. Stop yelling at Todd.
Welcome back to the Parc Fermé broadcast number 730. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that
That's
I'm
exactly
harmless.
what I need you to do. Oh boy, this week it's exciting because we're going to review the Portuguese Grand Prix, and what an exciting race it was. But before doing that, I have to introduce my co-host tonight. Of course, you know him. You love him.
Wrecked from out of the wasteland. He's bad. He's beautiful. He's crazy.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charles, the International.
It's Paul. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yep. Surviving in Texas right now.
Ah, yes.
Hailstorms, tornadoes, dogs and cats living together. It's everything's happening around here
Mass
right
hysteria.
That's exactly what it is.
now. Yeah.
Well, things are sunny and peaceful here in Missouri.
Bring money out of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Kill women and children.
I didn't hear
right.
a gunshot back then. No?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No gunshots yet
No.
in Missouri. You know how us knuckle draggers out here in the Midwest are, Paul. You know, we're crazy out here. It's insane.
Very crazy.
Paul, did you manage to squeak in the viewing of all three practice sessions, qualifying and the race?
No.
Ah. All right, big boy, turn on your jacket.
Yeah. I didn't get to see the practices, but yeah, it was a busy weekend because I was down at COTA, the heart of racing. We're racing in the SRO weekend because we've got two teams now. So we got the GT3 team and GT4 team. So the GT4 team were racing at COTA. So I was down there perusing around,
How'd that go?
showboating. I went pretty good. It's different, GT4 just GT3, different deal.
All right, so the difference for those that don't watch the series closely, what's the difference between the car you have in GT4 and GT3?
GT4 is a lot more road car based. You'd say 65% road car, and then they build a race car out of the road car.
Mhm.
But the GT3 car is pretty much all out race car from the beginning. So it's a lot more advanced with technology inside the car, aerodynamics, etc. Even though it's
Mhm.
based on the same road car, yeah, a lot more advanced. So GT4 cars, obviously, they're cheaper to buy, cheaper to run, not as quick around the track, but still all that race cars. And the GT3, GT4 market is just super competitive. So there's like 10, 12 different makes, you're racing against, from BMW to whatever. So it's super competitive. And got a rookie driver. He's only his second weekend, and Ian's there guiding him and co-driving with him in the Sprint X races. So it's a work in progress, shall we say, a new team. It's a separate team, completely. So so it's fun. So it's different being down there, but good times. I think ended up getting a fourth place at the end in the GT America race for our rookie. So it was a good finish to the weekend, but there's a lot of weather down there too. There's a lot of splashing around going on.
So did you pack up your Porsche and drive down Dakota?
Not my Porsche. I drove the Jaguar.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's all-wheel drive, so it's okay.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
works out nicely.
Yeah.
It's a cruiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you speed on the way down there?
Every chance I got. Yes.
Oh boy.
It's hard to do in Texas. I mean, the speed limits are like 95 miles an hour. So it's like, you're like, okay, I'm moving.
Well, it's a really
Especially
big
in the rain.
state.
Yeah.
So, you got to get, it takes a little while to get from one end of the state to the other.
It does. I love the speed limits in Texas.
Yeah,
It's
good.
They work well for me. Yeah.
Well, the speed limits in Portugal were good this weekend, Paul. I'm glad you managed to watch the race because we're going to cover the race. That's what we do on a race review podcast. I wanted, I tried to encapsulate some of the key elements, borrowing from some of the key elements. It's what I like about Pirelli and their press efforts. Got a good team over there that have good press releases, good graphics about pit stops, and I try to wait and use those in our race review or race report on the website because I think it's good info. Some of the key elements that they highlighted, and I was going to run through some of these about the race in particular. Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton won, obviously, the Portuguese Grand Prix by a half minute with a one-stop strategy from second on the grid. moving from his medium compounds to the hard tire, hard compound on lap 37, made that pay dividends. Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas, they finished second and third respectively, intended to run the same strategy. They stopped right at the end to put on the red soft tires to fight for that extra championship point with fastest lap, with Valtteri Bottas coming out on top of the fastest lap, claiming that because Max Verstappen's final lap was deleted for track limits. Yes, exactly. Poor Max missed out on that. Only one other competitor stopped twice. That was Haas driver Nikita Mazepin, of all things.
That's strange. I wonder what's causing all the accidents.
Was he going for fast lap too? I couldn't.
Apparently not. Yeah. He used all three compounds in his race. Sergio Perez started and finished fourth, ran an unusual strategy by going from the medium to the red soft with just 15 laps to go, went super deep on those medium compounds. The highest place finisher to start on the soft tire was McLaren's Lando Norris, who finished fifth with a soft medium strategy after starting seventh on the grid. We'll get into that in a minute. The temperature is a little warmer here than the previous days on Friday and Saturday. And that was Red Bull certainly was hoping that would play into their wheelhouse. Did not really in the end. May have helped them, but nonetheless, Mercedes takes the victory. Let's start with Mercedes, Paul. Lewis Hamilton in P1, as I mentioned, Valtteri Bottas in P3. Bottas had a great qualifying lap for pole position, made a good start, took the lead early on, Paul. And even at that restart, Valtteri managed to balk Lewis, caught Lewis out a little bit there, unusual, kept himself in the lead at the restart, but things started to change once Lewis got the bit between his teeth. Once things had calmed down, Lewis got back around Max. He pressured Valtteri for most of that race and eventually passed him with a DRS boost. Got up behind him, able to put some pressure on Valtteri. Valtteri tried to defend, Paul, and you really have that choice. You know, we're going to defend the inside or the outside. Chose the inside, and I think as Martin Brundle pointed out, you're really squaring off that corner. You're making that corner really tight for you, and you gave Lewis that extra width to go a lot faster and around that long side of that corner. You know, criticism or not, you know, you've got a choice to make. He made the choice to defend the inside. Didn't really work for him in the end. There was also Valtteri he was later passed by Max, even though the Red Bull tried that undercut. It didn't really work, but, you know, he was able to get back around Valtteri, unfortunately, on the tires that he had done a lap on. So he had a heat cycle on those tires. Then there was that odd exhaust sensor error that hampered Bottas. I'm not sure what the total impact of that was, because it looked like he had caught up to Max and was maybe going to make a charge at Max, but then dropped back when that error came up. So I don't know if there was an actual performance impact or not, but he made that run for fast lap there at the end and was able to keep it. So Valtteri really not happy with the balance of his car on the mediums. And then when he got those hard compound tires, seemed to like the balance of that car a little bit, got up to Max, then had that sensor error and ended up converting a pole position down to third.
Yeah, not a good day for Valtteri. Yeah, it's the track difficult, right? Not technically the corners are difficult, but the wind just played havoc with everybody all weekend long, really, and in the race, right? And it's tough because you can't, you know, give up any speed in the corner just in case the wind goes against you. So you just got to kind of really be ready, you know, to react. And certain people can drive with that, you know, over their head better than others. And Valtteri, as we know, he's a smoother, where we see the certain tracks that he does well at are not ones that you attack and you're really up on the wheel, etc. It's about just getting that momentum and speed through all the smooth whatever corners. So I don't think Valtteri is really ready there to react very well compared to someone like Max or Lewis. So I think he managed to do it for the qualifying, but I think ultimately he kind of got a little spooked, wasn't comfortable and really eking out that extra couple of tenths every lap that maybe Lewis and Max were able to do.
Yeah.
and that left him vulnerable, right? And
Yeah.
that allowed both of them to actually pass him in the race. And that outside pass in one is great. You know, it doesn't work very often, right? Usually the other drivers and you're supposed to give him a car width. It doesn't mean you have to give him 3 car widths. And I think in that pass with Valtteri, he literally, you know, went too far to the inside. If he'd have kept Lewis out or out to the outside and just enough, he maybe could have used a little bit of road to keep Lewis from making that pass. I think Valtteri also was, you know, he's not stupid either. When he did the restart, I think he was really trying to get Lewis to be behind Max, because I felt like he felt the Mercedes was probably a faster car than the Red Bull. So if he can get Verstappen in there as a blocker, it'll play against Lewis, but it didn't really work out for him in the end.
Yeah, Lewis, you know, he had a little bit more of a difficult time of it. He lost that spot to Max due to being caught out on that restart, as you just mentioned. That only served to kind of piss him off a little bit, you know, and then he was, you know, highly motivated. And then he marched back by both Max and Valtteri to take a win and a terrific drive, a lot of determination in a car that was performing better than the Red Bull on the balance of the weekend. Just, you know, it just seemed better, you know, all things given. A great effort by Lewis and it was Mercedes' 71st front row lockout for Mercedes since 2014 when the new hybrid engine came in. I was reading, Paul, an article by Mark Hughes over at Motorsport Magazine. I thought he made an interesting point. Get your thoughts on this. He was saying, and I'm paraphrasing Mark, he said it much more eloquently, but Mark was saying that one of the elements about Lewis in particular in the Mercedes was the harder compound tire on what could be arguably a gripless track meant that he could follow them a lot closer in that turn 14-15 complex and make best use of that DRS and not suffer that overheating that they normally would get following so close to the car in front of him. And that allowed him to get right up behind Max and then conversely right up behind Valtteri and make that move so commandingly, because he could really lean on that tire, get close in there, use the best of that DRS, get in there, get around there without suffering what would traditionally be that heat damage and overheating those tires at this track. And that made it capable.
Yeah, the tire definitely seemed to hold up a little bit more. Why can't they do that all the time? You know, we know we've gone up and down with, you know, how, you know, walking on eggshells with these tires sometimes and not. But also I think Lewis was buying himself some extra grip by his different lines in the corners, as opposed to maybe not optimum line, but he maximized what was available to him to get that shot off the corner. May not have been the best line to go all the way from beginning to end from A to B to C in a corner, but it gave him extra speed coming off the corner, sacrifice a little bit on the entry with the line he was taking, but get that extra little mile per hour coming off so he could make those gains in the right places on the track. So once again, Lewis showing, you know, his years of experience now on how to work the car and get that extra grip maybe from the aero, even if it's a bit further offline. And Max was doing it a little bit too, but I think Lewis was able to, with the Mercedes, was able to make it more of a positive reaction to it. He was able to really make the moves, which he obviously did. It's not easy coming from third place to win a race at a track like this in windy conditions and make 2 passes on the track, which he absolutely did. And yes, the Mercedes is better, but that's usually never enough. Right? If it's a little bit better, that's not enough to make a pass in a Formula One car. But because of what he was doing with the car and the Pirelli reaction to that being a little bit easier than usual, I think enabled these passes and to happen.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. You know, there's some criticism saying that Pirelli were a little too conservative in bringing the hardest compounds on offer for the season at a track that isn't, you know, really a high deg track and isn't real abrasive. One might argue, well, then maybe the knock on the performance is that it allowed them to drive a lot closer and get a lot closer without suffering that overheating issue that we would have if they were softer compounds. And if that's the case, then I'm thinking, well, that's a positive performance bonus and allows them to drive a little closer and get a little closer, lean on those tires more. And like you said, find some creative lines. And where Lewis is typically really all about that corner entry, right? It's that heavy braking, that, that rolling speed he takes into that corner and then a smooth throttle and out. Whereas Max all about the corner exit, and getting on throttle early. And maybe this allowed Lewis to be a little more creative in carrying that speed, as you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. If you go back and look at the video, it's you're like, where is he going with that?
Yeah.
But you're on a little different line, and the extra downforce you're gaining from being in that little line is more than compensating for not being on the optimum line. And I said, for these passes to happen, it was all about getting out that hairpin and just being able to get on the power and keep that momentum going to be able to make those DRS passes. Yeah,
it's an interesting look into Lewis's skill and his racecraft in that sense, to be able to change that philosophy on how he approaches that corner, make the best use of it, given what his tires feedback is giving him and where he can lean on that car. And I know all drivers do that at some level, but it just seems like Lewis can make that switch, really quickly and do it. Let's talk about Red Bull. Max Verstappen in P2, Sergio Perez in P4. Max had a couple of small errors on Saturday with track limit issues. And then, Paul, you mentioned turn 4, that wind really caught him out and put him out. He had to catch the car, put him over the racing line, deleted lap in Q3, right?
Yep.
Possibly costing him a shot at pole position, possibly in that case. But as such, the cars were that sensitive to that tailwind or side wind that caught him out on Saturday. And then he had, on Sunday, that cost him a possible pole and a possible fastest lap. And it's those, Paul, I guess at these margins, certainly if you're going to argue that Red Bull is there or thereabouts with Mercedes, and it could be track specific, which one is better, at those small of margins, at the end of the day, you can't make those errors because Lewis isn't.
Well, he's making errors in the season. He's not didn't necessarily make too many errors in the race, right?
Right.
He is making mistakes, but it's they're small mistakes, and we're like looking at them like big glaring mistakes. They're really not, because it is so close right now, and those little mistakes are making a big difference in the results at the end of the day, right? I mean, we've seen Lewis stuff it in a barrier. We saw Lewis not get the restart right, and Valtteri probably playing a game against Lewis and him getting caught out by it. So they're not all, it's not all Lewis 100% not making mistakes. They both are. I think it was interesting. I'm reading the Newey book, and I'm just getting into the Red Bull area and all the different aero issues they have, and how to make the car fast, but then how to make it more compliant in varying conditions, crosswind, etc., and how they came about to solve some of these issues and not make the car so sensitive. Before, the Mercedes was a very sensitive car, right? It was, everything had to be right, and it usually was, because they were always starting from the front. So I think there may be some things to work on the Red Bull car to make it more compliant in all situations. I think it's definitely as fast as the Mercedes in certain situations, but I think as close as it is, those little extra things that Max is trying to give it, sometimes it doesn't work out, but you can't fault him for trying. I think there's going to be an ebb and flow to these little mistakes, and ultimately the person that makes the least mistakes is probably going to win the championship.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm alluding to, is that if the margins are this close, just those little mistakes, they're not glaring huge, errors like running off, and hitting the wall, but it's even the little mistakes that cost you those tenths, right?
Yeah.
But that's what they're playing for, is tenths, if not hundreds, right?
Yeah. And it's, you got to ride the horse that got you there, and Lewis's attitude and what got him to where he is today, and what's brought Max to put him head and shoulders above pretty much all the other drivers on the grid. It's going to bite him occasionally, but ultimately it's what's making the difference between him being basically a title contender. So he's not going to change his attitude or his approach. As I said, sometimes it may not be the best outcome, but I think overall it's going to, gives Max a chance at the championship.
Yeah, right. Well, Max had a really good start. Really, the top three did. Sergio didn't, but the top three did. Max had a good start, mugged Lewis at the restart, couldn't hold on to that advantage. The Mercedes is just too quick, and certainly in the DRS, it was an indefensible position for Max. Max mentioned a sluggish third gear, but in the end, Merc just seemed to have that edge over the Red Bull at this track. And with these tires and in these cooler temps, it just seemed to have the legs, and Red Bull didn't. Now, that's not to say that the next race we show up, warmer temps, different track, it very much could ebb and flow track specific, and it'll be interesting to see.
And it's still driver dependent, right? Yes. Yep. The Mercedes in Lewis's hands had that slight edge over Max in the Red Bull, but ultimately Max and the Red Bull beat the other Mercedes. So
right. Yeah. So it is driver specific.
It's the combination of,
it is
that, which is fantastic. I mean,
it's great.
It's great to see this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. It was a more difficult day for Sergio. He struggled to get heat in his tires and had a poor start that lost him a couple places. The time it took him to recover meant he was well behind the leaders by the time he did recover, and the team tried to take advantage of Sergio's tire management. So they changed his strategy, knowing that Sergio has great tire management. He does. They tried to take advantage of that to run him very long and then switch to softs and make a run for that fast lap. It didn't work, unfortunately. Hindsight certainly is always 20/20, and I'm sure the team weren't planning on Sergio's pace deficit. And by the time he recovered, he was, I guess it was that dubious role. Do we box him knowing it's going to put him back? Do we try to use him as a tool to slow Lewis down and bring Lewis into Max's attack zone? They didn't do that in the end. He let Lewis by no contested argument there. I don't know. We can make a lot out of the lackluster performance, but at the end, Paul, he delivered fourth place and the points. That's where he started. That's what he delivered. That's why the team hired him to be there. It's not like he sunk down to 10th and brought home a point and struggled. I mean, he fought through that race. Yes, he wasn't as comfortable in that car. It was clear with the balance, but at the end, he delivered fourth place right behind the leaders and delivered the points. I was hoping he could get amongst them and mix it up, and I'm sure he was too. But just didn't seem at harmony with that car this weekend.
Yeah, I think losing that position at the start really hurt him. At that point, when he's that far back, by the time he wrestled his way back up to fourth, the strategy was gone. There wasn't anything to do. I'm not sure they weren't trying to use Sergio as a blocker for Lewis, but unfortunately, when Lewis got to Sergio, it was at the perfect point to him just to do the DRS pass by. So if Sergio had been another couple of seconds up the road, I think it would have worked handsomely for Max, but it didn't. So, and then they pitted him. They went long. We know he can go long on tires. They pitted him on the soft, see if he can get the fastest lap, and then everyone else stopped for the fastest lap, which scared the living bejesus out of me. Yeah, for all of them. Not for Sergio because he didn't have anything to lose, but when Bottas and Max pitted, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just wouldn't do that. Yeah, there is way too much risk involved. And the other thing, and we've approached this before in some other races, what if Lewis gets a puncture on the last lap?
Right.
Right? I mean, I can't remember what race it was not too long ago, but you've given him 30-second gap instead of 5-second gap. You can't pounce on an opportunity. So I think Red Bull were wrong in pitting him for sure. Maybe Bottas, okay. He didn't really have anything else to play for either, but pitting Max, I think, was a mistake by Red Bull, and too big a risk. I would not do that. Yeah,
I was thinking at the same time I wouldn't do it. Anything can happen. You could have a bad wheel nut. You could have a bad stop. Anything could happen, right? You take the points. You take the bird in the hand, not the two in the bush, right?
Exactly.
And, yeah, you go for that fast lap, but in the end, he lost it. So they took all that gamble for nothing, basically.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah. If something goes wrong, you lose, whatever points. Chasing 1 point, just not worth it. I advise against that, Red Bull, in the future.
All right. Let's talk about McLaren. Lando Norris, P5, Daniel Ricciardo down in P9. Lando is basically, Paul, getting the job done. He is doing a great job besting his veteran teammate, taking the best of the rest and solidifying his position in third in the Drivers' Championship. This young guy has turned around. This is a much more mature Lando than we've seen, and I'm really excited for him. He's seriously showing he can run with the big dogs up front, putting in a P5 performance. I'm sure he was gunning for P4. It wasn't in the cards, but look, they're battling for Ferrari. And, if Alpine is running well, possibly them, but they're definitely battling Ferrari for best at the rest at this point. You're up against some very stiff competition in the hands of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, and Lando is delivering it in spades.
Yeah, no, he hasn't put a foot wrong, really. I mean, I don't think the car's always going to be super competitive. We've seen him, make some really great qualifying runs. But in the race, he's, as you say, he's getting it done. And it was a shame for Ricciardo because he did really I don't know what happened to him in that qualifying, but I think ultimately Ricciardo had a decent pace in the race, kind of what Lando was showing, but he started so far back, there was no way he was going to make a recovery run to be on Lando's tail because Lando was driving balls off the thing. So, Ricciardo needs to figure that out. But yeah, McLaren's got to be very happy. And yeah, you're right. I mean, in my mind, there is no Alpine going to jump in there and start fighting it out. It really is between Ferrari and McLaren right there for that third spot.
Yeah, and this could end up being, all things given, not that the Red Bull Mercedes battle for this year isn't a bad battle. It is. It's great to watch, but we've got a second battle between Ferrari and McLaren. I think that could have a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun to watch. You mentioned Dan, tough day. Started toward the back, worked his way up to 10th. And gaining more with that long first stint. He gained quite a bit. That helped him out. Dan boxed, fell back to 10th again, then overtook Pierre Gasly, couple points. The takeaway for me here is that both drivers had a tough qualifying. That is kind of what hurt them. Both recovered, Lando obviously more so. So they both had a tough, they managed to recover. They got into the points. Lando using the same strategy though as Carlos Sainz, but he made the most of it to stay ahead of the Ferrari and keep McLaren squarely in best of the rest. I did think it was an interesting dichotomy. And we can jump to Ferrari. If you look at Carlos, had the chance to make the most of starting on the softs with a great quality performance, but they made that early pit stop call by the team in order to try to undercut Lando. That left him on mediums for too long, and he became a sitting duck for the fresh shot cars behind him, who stopped later. And I'm not really sure why Ferrari or what they were thinking when they did that. Even Carlos said they made the wrong call. They put him on those mediums. Maybe they thought those mediums, given their data from Saturday, they were going to last longer, but they didn't. So you had Lando going soft, hard, and that's obviously, I think, what Carlos should have done.
Yeah. I mean, the media, it was interesting how it was really car dependent on the life on those tires, especially the mediums. Some people were putting in some decent times, like 30 something laps into the mediums, but some weren't, right? But when you saw everyone go to the hards and their pace, it was obviously the hards were going to be the tire. But once you've selected that tire, but if you do the undercut before everyone else, then you would think, the tire with the longest longevity would be the good choice. But unfortunately for Carlos, last few laps he was kind of slithering around there and slithered his way out of the points. So bad call by Ferrari in that realm. But hindsight is 2020, right? This track, this situation, the tire, the wind, everything, it really is a bit of a guessing game. There's not, and it could have come out smell like roses, but when we look at today, obviously we see that the hard, and maybe it's the depth of the engineering force and what they're putting into it. But some teams made the right choice and some teams didn't, obviously. So I think it is still good that car is competitive, but unfortunately, they strategized himself out of the points.
Yeah. Charles Leclerc said that both he and Carlos had a lot of graining on the mediums, and he boxed early too. But the difference was he switched to the hard compound tires, and then he made that work for a sixth place. So I think that was a big miss for Ferrari. At first blush, I think you could say that they gambled a bit with Carlos based on the data from Saturday regarding the mediums. But to be honest, I don't know that it was really so much a gamble. I just think it was a wrong call, period.
Right.
But that's couch commander time. That's hindsight 2020. And like you said, Paul, it's a lot of moving targets out there with tire performance, car performance, setups, and what they thought they could get away with and what they thought that might work to undercut Lando. Unfortunately, just didn't pay out. So unfortunately for them. Alpine, Fernando Alonso, P8, Esteban Ocon, and P7. Alpine looked much better in Portugal with Esteban really bringing the heat from Saturday onward. Good qualifying session from Esteban. And he was quicker than Alonso for the balance for most of the weekend. To be honest with you, Esteban said he was very happy with the result, and it's a first real flash. In my mind, it's been the first real flash of pace from Esteban that we've seen in quite a while.
Since Force India, maybe.
Yeah, right. Seriously, on balance. And so I thought he delivered this weekend. I thought it was a great performance from Esteban.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got Alonso as a benchmark, which is a pretty good benchmark. So it's something he has to do, obviously. And we saw signs back in the Force India days, him and Perez, and he had some speed on him and everything. He seemed very dull last year, I thought.
Yeah.
So definitely livened up, and I think the car's come alive a little bit. Still don't think it's a Ferrari McLaren beater, but it's there or thereabouts, right about in that fifth spot. So some days are going to be better than others, and this was a pretty bright day eventually for both their cars, actually.
Yeah. Actually, Fernando was pissed about Saturday, and he vented that anger by climbing back up to eighth. He said he was more comfortable in the car this weekend, though. He said this weekend he could push this car a lot harder than he's been able to so far. So he was feeling better about that. The team strategy, in my mind, completely on target with the strategy. Took Fernando to actually make it pay dividends. But to be fair, we talk about Fernando executing that strategy, got him back up to P8. But in my mind, to be fair, the weekend was Esteban's by far. I think he had a great quality, great race performance. It was his weekend.
Yeah, I mean, as a whole weekend, but I think Alonso, what he showed at the second half of the race was pretty stout.
Yes, absolutely.
And, I think once Fernando gets comfortable with the team and the car and everything like that, I think some good stuff's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Alpha Tower, Pierre Gasly, P10, Yuki Tsunoda, P15. Pierre had a good quali, and so far, that's where they've shined the brightest. But come race day, they've had a little more difficult time delivering that pace so far in 2021. Pierre may not have had a shot really at Ferrari, even though they got their strategy wrong. And so he didn't really get a point with Ferrari getting signs of strategy wrong, but he did get the last point on offer. Not that great of a weekend. Actually, Yuki is showing his rookie status a little bit, cutting his teeth on the racing lines again, running afoul of those. A little frustration, I guess that's to be expected. Really, the tough quality meant that he left a lot on the table for Yuki. We've talked about this a little bit with that rookie, and he had balance issues with his car early on. He had a lot of ground to make up, and we talked about this is sort of a tangible example of the risk you take with a rookie, in that the inconsistent quality means that you're starting back and you're always having a lot of ground to make up, trying to get that team and get back up there with Pierre. And that's a tall order for a rookie. But it's a tough weekend. And this is a team, Paul, that a lot of people are saying, well, don't take your eye off this team as a possible threat to best of the rest. But they just haven't been able to deliver 3 races in.
Yeah. I mean, it does show signs of being super fast, especially in Gasly's hands. And even Yuki can drive a lap, whether it be on the grass or whatever, I don't know. But they're always going to be compromised for their overall world championship status. having a rookie in there, and he's an interesting character. So how they get their head around to point him in the right direction, do the right things at the right time, that's going to be something to see. But it's fun to have him on the team. I mean, if Gasly's struggling, then Yuki's really going to struggle, right? So when the car's really good, Gasly top 5 car, Yuki may should be able to do well. But when you're in Formula One for the first time, or in any series for the first time, driving everything unfamiliar, when things aren't quite right, it can put you off a little further than from other drivers who have more experience. So you got to have this experience to know what to do when these things change and when things aren't going right, how to try and fix them or make the best of the situation. He just doesn't have that playbook yet, right?
So, it'll come in time.
Yeah. So when the car's difficult, the gap's really going to be larger than when the car's doing pretty decent.
Right. Yeah. It's a tougher weekend for AlphaTauri. I was hoping that over the balance of the first 3 races that we'd see them, thereabouts fighting for best of the rest. They just haven't been able to execute that yet, and I hope they do. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Räikkönen, DNF, Antonio Giovinazzi, P12. Apparently, Kimi was adjusting something on his steering wheel and managed to get distracted and hit the back of his teammate, which brought out the safety car early on and ended Kimi's race. It was a very rookie move for a veteran like Kimi, but he admitted to the mistake, unfortunately, so that ended his race. But for Antonio, I don't want to overplay this here, Paul, but actually I thought Antonio looked relatively competitive this weekend in both quali and the race. He said at the end of the day, 12th's about as good as he could get. They needed attrition ahead of them to get him into the points, but I didn't think he looked too bad this weekend.
Yeah, not too bad, but not too bad isn't really good enough, is it? I'm not saying he had a bad day, but the car just wasn't quite there on this weekend. Right. If 12th is the best you can get, then that's what you do. We know that the Alfa Romeo doesn't seem to have too many surprises up their sleeve, unfortunately, right now. Kimi's move, hey, when you talk about safety, that's distracted driving. They should take all that stuff off the steering wheel, don't you think?
That's right.
Tell our kids who are learning to drive.
That's right.
Don't play around with all the knobs and things.
No radio.
Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road.
That's right. That's why you can't enter addresses, while it's in drive. You got to put it in park to put your sat nav.
That's right. So let's bring back those give everyone a Sparco steering wheel with nothing on it.
Nothing on it.
Except the button to talk to the crew and
let
everyone get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Aston Martin, Lance Stroll in P14, I think it was.
I want it now. What's the matter with those twats down there?
I don't know. Sebastian Vettel down in P13 after a decent showing on Saturday that had some wondering if the old Seb was back. Aston Martin showed their rake gates concerns on Sunday with no points and Seb losing 3 spots on balance. Seb had a long stint on the mediums, but in the end, the lack of pace betrayed any crafty strategy the team may have devised. He did qualify well, got up into top 10. Decent qualifying. A lot of people said, hey, Seb's back, but in the race, lost 3 positions out of the points. Didn't go well. Lance struggled as well. The 2 of them swapped spots a few times, and then Lance came out behind Seb, despite having all the new goodies on his car, Paul, but not on Seb's car. So
not bad for a number 2.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, let's hope that's not indicative of how effective their upgrades are. And let's hope this was more track specific than upgrade specific. But it's a difficult weekend, even with that flash of good quality from Seb.
Yeah, it's funny how people jump from the bandwagons. It's like, oh, he's back. Oh my God, the old Seb back. He's barely going to blink on a lap. It's like, okay. he qualified 10th. There's a ton of competitiveness in the middle, and EA did a good job, and it's better than him being out in Q1 for sure. But
starting from the pit lane,
this team is struggling, right? It's horrible to see. I don't know how they can turn it around. There's going to be some opportunities, some tracks like Monza or somewhere like that, where some of these deficits in their aero package aren't going to show themselves. But it's going to be a tough year for Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's tough. And, I know they're upset, and I know Otmar, and I'm sure Lawrence is very upset. They went all in on this car and all in on this design, and they feel like the regulations really caught them out. And, the rest of the teams are saying, hey, it's the same for everyone. Regulations are the same for everyone.
They really are. So
we didn't miss it. You guys did. And then, but our rake and, there was cars were, and I get all that. We'll see what Otmar decides to do. Last race he was sort of threatening legal action, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think we said it in the preseason or early on that this car was sort of the first Stroll era car, right? And I know it was an evolution car, but in the end, you got to start somewhere where it's your baby. And this is what you got. This is your team. You spent all the money. It's not a knock on of the pink Mercedes. This is your baby, your new design, and this is where you are. Yep. And it's 2 steps back, but at least they know where they are. They're not dead last, and they've got like Haas and everyone else that enters Formula One. You got a hell of a lot of work to do from this point forward.
Yeah, it's tough lessons to learn. But they are lessons to be learned and built from, right? As you said, it's a whole new kind of concept team that they've put together here. The first Stroll car, so as you said, but but everything changes next year anyway. So
changes all again.
I don't even know what to say about it, but they got it wrong, and I don't know how they can sue someone for them getting it wrong when other teams, they could have built a high rate car. They could have read the rules properly. They didn't. Right. No one is going to change the rules because they built an uncompetitive car.
Right. So. Right. If that's the case, then Williams and Haas will be suing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Speaking of Williams. George Russell, P16. Nicholas Latifi didn't have a DNF. I'm sorry, I didn't change that. He was down in P18, I believe.
Just no one really cared. That's
Ooh, yes. Yes. So there you have it. Paul shining a bright light on the career of Nicholas Latifi. What are you gonna do?
Sorry, he actually had a good race.
He did.
He was competitive last week, but
he was.
This is a tough weekend to be in a Williams for sure.
Yeah, it was. George had a good qualifying session. Couldn't convert that to pace on Sunday, and at one point, his teammate actually passed him for good measure. But he did fight back. Managed to get up to 16th. Said the car was really difficult to drive. Nick said it was a tough day. He knew it would. I thought this was kind of funny. Nick was farther back, right, than George. George had a really good qualifying. And so Nick didn't, and he was quite a ways back. And Nick said, yeah, I kind of thought I knew this was going to be a tough day when right after the start, I looked up and George is already back with me. It was like, yeah, there's going to be a long day in the office there, Nick. So yeah, tough race for Williams. But I'm glad they still have the Senna S on the nose, Paul. That was highlighted in the pre-race show by Sky.
Oh, very good. Yes. Yeah, no. But it's tough to I mean they've made it blatantly obvious to everyone. We've designed a car that does not work well in behind cars or in wind gusty situations. Once again, gunning for a win at Monza, I guess, or something like that. But
they've been very frank. We've made a car that's not going to work well at about 87% of the tracks. Okay. So for 80% of the races this year, we'll just kind of count you out. But those remaining tracks, we're expecting big things, boys.
Big things. Which we've talked about that before. It's not necessarily a bad strategy.
No.
If you can build a car good for 3 or 4 tracks, you really have a good shot at getting some good points. It may gain you a spot in the championship in the end.
Right.
Because a lot of the teams, there's going to be 3 or 4 teams at the back there that are not going to be scoring many points, and 1, 2, 3 points that you grab are going to be very, very important.
Yep, going to be worth millions of dollars.
Yep.
Let's see. Haas F1, Mick Schumacher, P17, Nikita Mazepin, P19. Mick Schumacher seemed like a young man who was tired of being last this weekend, so he took the fight to a struggling Williams to get past Latifi for 17th. So Haas actually beat someone on Sunday, and that's a good showing for Mick. I thought it was a good turnaround for him. He put the bit between his teeth, got into that 3-year-old car, made something of himself, got
Yeah.
mad, got around a Williams.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And we got, obviously there wasn't a lot happening. We got a lot of in-car footage of him chasing Latifi, making a mistake, then falling all. Well, actually didn't make a mistake. He got screwed by the blue
flags, right?
But then gained all that time back, and with his very calm, kind, elementary school teacher engineer. Well done, Mick.
Well done.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, well done. Terrific. Let's go have a cup of tea after the race.
Nice move.
I love that engineer guy. I don't know where he comes from, but that man is.
Is it American? Because I think he's got an American accent.
No, I don't think so.
No? Oh,
No,
all
I
right.
don't think so. But,
maybe it's the other engineer.
He's Canadian. I don't know. But he's very calm. He's a bit of a different voice on the radio, and obviously Mick gets a bit more of a limelight than maybe Mazepin does. But Mazepin makes up for it by doing what Mazepin does. But
we're gonna have to call Mick's engineer Hal 9000. It's like, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
I don't know. I'd call him Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello, children. Hello, Mick. Welcome to the grid. Yeah. So I thought it was great. It was terrific. We got to ride along with that and learning experience. This is a year, and it was fantastic to see a Haas beat another car.
It was
competitiveness,
It was good. Well, Paul, I'm not sure what to say about Nikita Mazepin, but he was penalized for balking Perez under blue flags. That cost Perez 2 seconds. I was watching the clock there. That wasn't good. So he's penalized. Clearly, I think at this point, Paul, it's hard to not see him as just a wallet trundling around on track out there. He's like a big fat leather wallet just trundling around the track out there at this point. And then I was equally taken by Gunther Steiner's comment that he said it was a weekend of progress and that they were making progress. So there's that. Okay.
Yeah, that guy, I mean, he's making the highlight reel for all the wrong reasons, isn't he?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess he's trying to keep Nikita's dad happy, I guess.
Well, absolutely, right? He's trying to keep his job. No, Nikita, he's right there, right?
Oh, he's there, thereabouts.
He's dicing it out with Perez. He's not making it easy for him.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. That guy's out of his depth.
Yes. Yeah, clearly. And you could say, okay, well, Nikita and then, Lance Stroll, but, Lance delivers.
Yeah.
Lance has talent.
Yeah, he does.
And he's driving. And you and I have talked about it. We're particularly impressed with his wet weather skills.
Yeah, no, Lance. Yeah, he's there. Yeah, obviously he's there because of his dad's money, but he does a good job, and he's been on the podium, etc. You can't fault that again. He doesn't do stupid stuff most of the time, but Mazepin has not showed any of that.
No, Lance is there on merit. I give Lance a lot of shtick, and we're just having fun with it. But, Lance is there on merit. He's driving well. And I think you and I, when he first entered the sport with Williams, he was taking a lot of incoming fire on, oh, they're a rich dad and all that. And we were kind of defending. We said, look, he's there. He's quick. And he had some pace in that Williams. He was getting a little frustrated with the Williams and, a little prima donna, I guess, because his dad, was basically footing the bill like Nikita's dad is. And I get all that. But even over at Aston Martin, he's delivering some good performance. He's beating Seb. He looks okay. I thought he did last year with Sergio Perez, and that's a pretty tall measuring stick.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you make it in racing, but most of them are. The first thing you need is money, right? Whether it's your money, someone else's money, a sponsor's money, you just can't do it. And you have to have has to be that combination. Senna's family had a lot of money. They got him, to F3 or whatever and showed his talents. So
Lewis had Ron Dennis bankroll in that.
So sometimes it's who your dad was, a family, your last name, that gets you opportunities. So it's what you do with the opportunity is what counts in the end. And I think Stroll's done pretty decent with the opportunity. As I said, we have a bit of fun with it, but I think mainly the now point is his dad that's the humor point rather than Lance himself.
I know his dad is starting to overshadow the Lance phenomenon. I'm gonna have to come up with some nice sound bites to explain Lawrence. And it all kicked off on that Williams the first season of Drive Survive when he stands up, stuffs his hand down and just his junk right in front of Claire. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell, dude?
And,
You know,
and
who
this
starts
and this
digging
year,
around and
yeah.
right in front of Claire, she's sitting in front of your junk. Come on, man.
yeah, and the team meeting on the Drive Survive this year, you know. Okay, you got 20 seconds. Tell me everything about the Formula One
Yeah.
team that I've spent
Yeah.
spending millions of other people's money on. Yeah.
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
you know, stop the chest pounding, Gunga Din. We're all trying
Yeah.
to race. here.
Yeah. Can we just have a conversation and
Yeah.
not necessarily put an endpoint on it right now?
Okay.
It is the
We're-
Formula One team, by the way.
Yeah, we're pretty all aware that you're the 800-pound gorilla in the room. All right. You don't need to remind us every time you walk in. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's not play egos here. Leave that at the door, you know?
Yeah, please.
Oh boy. Anyway, so let's do some awards. Our first award is a move of the race. Yes, move of the race. We enjoy move of the race, Paul. Yes, we do. What is
We
your
do.
move of the race?
We have had to rename it because of the DRS infliction on our lives,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm gonna give it to Max and the Red Bull team for that pit stop strategy and executing the pass
Mhm.
right when he had to. Right. You know, you got one lap to put a lap down, and then even though I know you said earlier that strategy didn't work, but it did because it brought him right behind Bottas and gave him the opportunity to make that pass, which he did.
No, I meant it wasn't a clear cut, complete
Yeah.
undercut. He came out of the pits ahead of him. It didn't
Yeah.
work from that perspective, but it did work because it got him right on the tail and he had a lap of heat in those tires and it worked.
Exactly. So
That's good.
that was definitely a big move to get Max up there, you know, fighting it out with Lewis
Yeah,
again.
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. My move of the race, Lewis on Max and Valtteri.
Mhm.
Look, you know, he made it work. He got balked at that restart, kicked him back there, got Max around him, boom, came right back, put the bit between his teeth, got, you know, motivated, came right back past both of them. I just thought it was a great move.
Yep.
Took the
no
lead
doubt.
and didn't look back, man. Lewis was superlative this weekend. I thought it was a great drive.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, next award is Donkey of the Race.
We'll do it live. Get down.
All right, drive the race. No, don't drive. Is that what Donkey? Sorry, Donkey.
Donkey. Yes.
Yeah.
Donkey.
I
Yes.
think
So,
we're alike on this one, right?
I actually switched it. I've decided
Oh.
to give it to Crofty for his comment on his very highly detailed analogy and technical download on the rear brakes on a Formula One car, equating it to dinosaur arms, and him saying it's more, you know, and he's upfront with saying probably the best way to say it is the rear brakes on a Formula One car is like the dinosaur arms of a T-Rex. So really, that's the best way anyone could possibly come up with describing that? No, I'm sorry. Let's give Steve Matchett a try, can we?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh boy. It reminds-
Yet, donkey.
yeah. Reminded me of my daughter. I said, well, I don't know. Is that guy, she's 16. You know, I was like, is that guy cute? And she's like, yeah, he is. But Dad, he's got little T-Rex arms. Well, you know, sweetie, a girl's got to have her standards. Whatever. Good thing your mom had none. She married me. Good grief. So anyway, yeah, all right. Well, I'm giving it to Kimi Räikkönen.
Steering wheel.
Yep. Yeah, he was adjusting things on his steering wheel and clouded his own teammate. I don't know. After you know, when
Old
you
man
love,
Raikkonen
Yeah,
wasn't
you
paying
know-
attention. He drifted off.
That's
you know?
right. When you've loved and lost like Kimi has, come on, man, you ought to know better than that. That
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
kind of a rookie move. All right.
No, it wasn't good.
All right. Then finally, we come up with drive of the race.
Get in there, Lewis. You like my face? You like it?
Heck yes, I like it. Fourth.
Maybe not
what you gonna
Sergio.
do?
No, maybe not this
Come on,
week.
Sergio. Pick it
Yeah.
up, man.
Yeah.
Come on. All right. So drive of the race, Paul. Who'd you give it to?
I am going to give it to Mick Schumacher.
Yeah. How
Right?
about you? Yeah.
He may not get shot the rest of the season for sure,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed, as I said, riding along, and I enjoyed the fact that he hustled that Haas to pass a car that's running on probably twice the budget, even though not a great budget.
No. That
I-
Haas is running on memories at this
Yes,
point.
yes, it is. Yeah, they're all sharing a big Subway sandwich at lunch at this point. You know, Only one turkey for you, Mick. But
see,
yeah.
see, we're gonna have this little piece of turkey for you, and well, this is a little bigger piece, but it goes to Nikita because his dad bought it. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
yeah,
so
yeah.
much. I have some more. He's like Oliver out there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think he overachieved in that car, and
Yeah, he
why
did,
not?
for
Why the
sure.
hell not? Right?
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm giving it to the guy that should have got driver of the race. I don't know what F1 did. I don't know what happened there. They gave it to Sergio Perez.
Really?
Driver of the day, on the vote. It must have
That-
really got a lot of Mexicans voting that day or
Man,
whatever. Like,
there's a lot of
like,
hanging chads out there.
like
Jeez.
the folks in Poland did, right? That one
Mm.
time. So I don't know what's going on. I should have gone to Lewis. Lewis, by far,
Yeah.
driver of the race.
Yeah, that was
Good
a great
grief.
race.
Lewis is a fantastic race. He wasn't on pole. He got balked down to third, put the bit between his teeth, was superlative. It was a fantastic race by Lewis.
Yeah.
And, it's all right. So you don't like him or whatever, but come on, man. That was a great race by him. He deserved that. I thought it was great. So that's what I say.
Get in there, Lewis.
Absolutely. Get in there, Lewis. Good race. I liked it. All right, Paul, we've got some mail.
You've got mail.
You can go to our website, theparcfermé.com. At the top menu there, you'll see one of them that says mailbag. If you click on that, you can go down and leave your questions for us, and we'll read them on the podcast. And this week, our very good friend, Pat Goodman, sent us it is a specific mail just for you, Paul, not me or Grace, just for you. He
Okay.
said, this question for Paul requires some setup. Watching the F1 virtual lap for next year's not really Miami Grand Prix. What? Oh, yeah. That's right, baby. We're going to Miami. No, we're not. Actually going
No.
to Miami Gardens.
Yeah.
Not really the Miami Grand Prix leaves one with several impressions. Boring. Drivers and fans alike. Surprising elevation changes. For example, the track high point is turn 7 when the car drives over an ant. Boring. Great in-car views as well. Boring. Clearly a low downforce, high-speed track, driver not needed track, and I thought Herman Tilke tracks were bad. Boring. My question, what could be done other than canceling the event to improve racing? Pat Goodman.
Yeah. Move it to the old Miami Grand Prix track.
In Miami.
In Miami.
Ah,
in the harbor.
That is Miami, Paul.
That is Miami.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. As I've said before, I had raced a couple of times at the Miami Grand Prix when it
You
was,
loved it.
in the downtown area.
Yeah.
It was, the event was big. It was like
Yeah.
Long Beach kind of thing.
How was it driving down that harbor? That would have been cool.
Yeah. Well, I hit the wall. But anyway,
Oh,
let's move on from there. No.
oh, wait a minute. No, Paul. We're unpacking that, baby. What happened? How did you hit the wall?
Well, a suspension broke.
Okay.
So I hit a
Mechanical
bump.
failure.
It was a mechanical failure, but
Okay.
I still hit the wall. but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I hit the wall in qualifying. I didn't hit the wall in the race. But
All right. How'd you do in the
yeah.
race?
I don't even remember. I don't think I 12th or something. I can't
I have to
remember.
go look this
It
up.
wasn't that great. I don't think the car
All
wasn't
right.
that great
What car were you driving?
after hitting the wall. It wasn't that great in the race.
They get in
so-
there trying to bend the chassis back out.
Pretty
know.
much.
Yeah.
Pretty
What
much.
car was it?
It was a Honda CRX with in the
Nice.
Firestone Firehawk series. So, but
Nice.
even so, it was
Yeah.
it was a great track to drive. I mean,
Yeah.
it was tricky. There was
Mhm.
actually a lot of elevation to it.
Mhm.
It was bumpy. No room for error, just as all street circuits should be.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of character. I wish they would be. I would have tried and figure out a way of putting it down there, because just as said, it would be literally like the seascape from Monaco,
Oh, yeah. it'd
but
be
in
beautiful.
Miami, and add the character of Miami. We know
Yeah.
the fans are down there. I mean, there's so many. From South America, Latin America, they're so big on racing. It's just
Yeah.
it's probably gonna go off anyway, because it's gonna be close by. But
Yeah.
the character of the old Miami Grand Prix was great.
Yeah. I hope they totally surprise us, Pat. I hope they come up with
Yeah.
a really great design or something, but I don't know. It's difficult to
Yeah.
make a parking lot race exciting.
It really is. I mean, as we talked about before the podcast, like Sochi doesn't have a lot of
Mm.
Russia in it, right?
Yeah. Valencia is a Jersey
Yeah,
barrier
it's an
race.
exhibition area, and
Yeah.
there's some barriers up, and you see it.
Yeah. Right.
So, because I mean, obviously I used to live in South Florida, etc. So
Yeah.
I understand the culture, and I understand a lot of things down there. And it's a shame that none of that is actually going to flow through
Mm.
when you look at the track as it is. I mean, they're starting with a clean sheet of paper. Hopefully they could build a bit more character into it, but the piece of pavement they're having to deal with, maybe there isn't anything left to do. But I can't come up with any revelations on how to make it that interesting right now.
I don't know. And, it's hard to develop elevation in a parking lot. You need it to be a parking lot, so I don't know. Hopefully they'll get creative. They'll come up with a real look. I'm not trying to poo-poo this thing before it gets off the ground. I'm excited there's another race in the US. Of course I am. Excited for the folks in Miami Garden that get F1 in schools and $5 million to do it. But at the end of the day, I just hope it's a good track, and I hope it's a good race. I'm just worried that it won't be. So I hope I'm completely up for being proven wrong. So.
Yeah, my wife's excited. She's like, let's go.
Miami.
She wants to go in the stands with all the Latin American people because she knows it's going to be a wild deal. So she's excited about that.
Yeah. Oh boy. All right. Well, that does it for this race review. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh, and also thanks to all of you that commented for the well wishes on my surgery that I had on my arm. For those of you watching this episode on YouTube, yes, I have the splint off and I can move the arm about 80%. So I've been doing those exercises. I'm getting there, but at least
how's that job as a crossing guard working out? You still not ready to go back in the
Hello,
game?
kids. No, don't walk. This is about as panicked as I can get with that arm. Yes, I wouldn't make a good Ferrari person because I can get crazy with my left, but I can't really do a lot of arm waving over here with my right. So
luckily, it's your right hand, and you're right-handed.
Yeah, I am right-handed.
Makes your life really easy. Yeah.
I cannot do anything. It's stunning. I can play guitar because when you can't use your right hand, and I'm right-handed. I can't do.
Oh, you've been playing guitar even fighting through?
No. I haven't played guitar in weeks because I can't, really do this. So it's the supination of the wrist that makes it really tough. So anyway, thank you so much for the get well soon messages. Really appreciate that, folks. And thank you to all of our Patreon supporters who, without your support, we would not be able to do this podcast. So if you're not a Patreon supporter, you ever thought about supporting our podcast, that's a great way to do it. You can go to our website, theparcferme.com. On the right-hand side, there's a link to our Patreon page. You just click on that link. You can support us as little as $1 a month. So huge thank you to all of those that have signed up and are supporting this podcast. We couldn't do it without you. Also, if you like the podcast, go over to iTunes, give us a good rating over there. Give us a little love. That would be appreciated. And you could tell other people about that podcast as well, called the Viral Coefficient, so you can help us improve that. So anyway, thank you so much, Paul. It's been awesome to do this, but Paul, I'm sorry you're not done yet because next week is Barcelona. Yes, it's Barcelona. It's
Barcelona.
Yes, we'll be
not
back,
the wind.
Paul, doing it all over again.
Yes,
just the hashtag just the wind. Yes.
Hashtag, yes.
We'll be back next week doing all this all over again.
Fantastic.
Alonso's
I'm ready.
Stomping ground. Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. It's a good season so far.
That's right.
No reason to think it's not going to be any good.
Nah, it's going to be good. All right, folks. Until next week, when we come back and review the Spanish Grand Prix, this is Todd, aka Negative Camper, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.